officials allowed her the moment to get the emotions out of her, and some officials wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, right in the quad. Like, that hurts. Like, the ref can't miss that. And then I have to play with a contusion in my leg the rest of the game. Like, it's ridiculous.
If the NBA is going to review calls, you said the WNBA can review calls and act retroactive.
A massive referee controversy is absolutely exploding across the WNBA right now, and Caitlin Clark has just made a monumental move in response. The basketball community is erupting after a shocking sequence of events left the sophomore superstar completely unprotected on her own home floor. During a highly physical matchup against the league's top defense, Caitlin Clark absorbed a brutal hit that left her visibly limping. Yet, despite the clear contact right in front of the official, the whistles remained completely silent. The sheer frustration boiled over into an unforgettable, high-stakes confrontation that has fans demanding immediate accountability. With her physical health on the line and tension reaching a historic breaking point, Caitlin Clark is refusing to stay quiet any longer. Everyone is scrambling to see exactly how the league will react to this unprecedented defiance.
Play with Stokes that made you upset and then you hopped into the back.
Quad. Like, that hurts. Like, the ref can't miss that. And then I have to play with a contusion in my leg the rest of the game. Like, it's ridiculous. Can't miss calls like that.
Did they give you an explanation right after when you went up to him?
I initiated the contact. Which is fine. You can't hit me in the leg and knock me over.
The level of patience surrounding this entire situation has officially reached its limit after weeks of escalating tension. For the past 3 weeks, fans have watched with growing concern as the physical treatment of Caitlin Clark reached unprecedented levels on the court. It seems like every single game features a new sequence where Caitlin Clark is getting shoved, elbowed, or heavily knocked around by opposing defenders. Despite dealing with a lingering back issue that previously forced her to miss 5 full games, the sophomore guard has done everything possible to stay on the floor. Caitlin Clark returned to action on a strict 25-minute restriction, playing through clear discomfort just to support her team. Yet, the lack of protection from the officials is starting to look like a systemic failure that threatens her safety. The boiling point finally arrived during a high-stakes home matchup at Gainbridge Fieldhouse against the Golden State Valkyries. The Valkyries entered the arena boasting the absolute best defensive rating in the entire league, known for their suffocating full-court pressure. Everyone knew they would throw everything they had at Caitlin Clark to disrupt her offensive rhythm from the opening tip. But nobody expected the physical boundary to be pushed as far as it was during a crucial sequence in the second quarter. The baseline cameras caught a moment that immediately sent shockwaves through the entire arena and lit up social media. What happened next on the floor completely shifted the conversation from a standard basketball game to an officiating crisis. Midway through the second period, Caitlin Clark found a sliver of space and made a highly aggressive drive directly toward the paint. As Caitlin Clark rose up to complete a tough layup near the stanchion, Golden State defender Kia Stokes rotated over to contest the shot. The collision was immediate and incredibly heavy, sending Caitlin Clark crashing violently to the hardwood floor. To the absolute astonishment of the 17,000 spectators in attendance, the referee standing just feet away did absolutely nothing. The whistle remained entirely silent as the ball trickled through the net, leaving the franchise player down on the floor. This exact moment represents the core issue that has fans completely outraged with the current state of league officiating. Instead of staying down or waiting for help, Caitlin Clark let her raw emotion completely take over in a way we have never seen before. Caitlin Clark sprang back to her feet, visibly favoring her leg, and made a direct beeline straight toward the official who missed the play. With a fist thrown high in the air, Caitlin Clark let out a barrage of words that were easily picked up by the courtside television microphones. You could clearly see every single syllable of her frustration as she demanded to know how such blatant contact could be overlooked. The sheer intensity of the confrontation left the commentators completely stunned as they replayed the heavy collision in slow motion. It was a massive moment of defiance that perfectly captured the boiling frustration of an entire fan base. The referee's immediate response to this heated confrontation only served to add fuel to an already exploding fire. Instead of offering an explanation or acknowledging a missed whistle, the official issued a stern verbal warning directly to Caitlin Clark. It felt incredibly backwards to the fans watching at home who had just witnessed the star player take a direct hit to her lower body. The lack of accountability on the floor created a highly volatile atmosphere that seemed to compromise the integrity of the entire contest. People are beginning to question if the league is actively trying to send a message by letting opponents play with an elevated level of physical aggression against her. This treatment stands in stark contrast to how other foundational superstars are handled when they absorb heavy floor contact. Once the final buzzer sounded, the conversation immediately shifted to the post-game press conference podium where everyone waited to hear what would be said. Caitlin Clark did not mince her words or hide behind standard corporate athletic cliches when the microphone was handed to her. Caitlin Clark openly revealed that the heavy collision with Kia Stokes had left her with a severe contusion on her leg. She explicitly told reporters that playing the remainder of the game with a deep bruise was completely ridiculous. Caitlin Clark explained that while she has no problem initiating standard competitive contact, getting kneed directly in the leg and knocked over crosses the line. Her honesty provided a refreshing yet jarring look into the physical toll she is currently enduring. The contrast between the honesty of Caitlin Clark and the response of her coaching staff created another layer of intrigue for analysts. Head coach Stephanie White took the podium next, facing an immediate barrage of questions regarding the controversial no call. Stephanie White revealed that the explanation she received from the officiating crew on the floor was that Caitlin Clark was the one who initiated the initial contact. The coaching staff seemed to be walking a very fine line, attempting to express their deep frustration without triggering a massive financial penalty from the league office. Stephanie White sarcastically noted that it always seems to be characterized as Caitlin Clark making the first move, hinting at a deep-seated bias in how the games are being evaluated. This calculated response showed just how high the administrative stakes are behind the scenes. This growing divide between the physical reality on the hardwood and the administrative narrative is creating a massive identity crisis for the sport. Fans are left wondering how a generational icon can continue to execute elite plays while dealing with multiple lingering injuries and an apparent lack of institutional protection. The true impact of this officiating storm will soon reveal itself as the schedule intensifies. This growing debate about the physical treatment of Caitlin Clark on the floor brings up a much larger issue regarding retroactive league discipline. Fans are quick to point out that if other professional leagues can thoroughly review intense moments after the game, the Wnba has that exact same administrative power. In fact, the league office has previously stepped in to hand down major suspensions and upgrade missed fouls to flagrant status upon post-game review. A prime example occurred recently when Phoenix forward Alyssa Thomas made reckless contact with the throat area of Caitlin Clark during a highly physical scrum. The referees on the floor completely missed that dangerous play in the moment, but the league office later intervened, hit Alyssa Thomas with a retroactively applied flagrant 2, and handed down a one-game suspension. It proved that the administration is fully capable of policing the court when the public outcry reaches a certain volume. Yet, this retroactive justice does little to protect Caitlin Clark while the actual game clock is ticking away. During the heated game against the Golden State Valkyries, the complete lack of an immediate whistle left the Indiana Fever roster vulnerable and incredibly frustrated. When head coach Stephanie White spoke to the media about the specific play where Caitlin Clark was kneed in the quad, her frustration with the immediate officiating logic was palpable. Stephanie White noted that the administrative excuse, claiming Caitlin Clark always seems to be the one initiating contact, feels like an unfair label placed on her star player. The head coach was clearly doing everything possible to avoid a massive league fine while still conveying that the level of protection for her superstar is absolutely unacceptable. It highlights a bizarre institutional double standard where the victim of a hard foul is routinely blamed for the collision itself. Curiosity deepens when you realize how often the conversation surrounding these basketball games completely shifts away from actual athletic execution. The league is increasingly finding itself drifting toward a dramatic entertainment model, where the main talking points are off-court controversies rather than basketball strategy. Instead of analyzing the tactical adjustments made by the coaching staff, fans spend days debating missed calls, technical fouls, and podium statements. This shift is incredibly frustrating for pure sports purists who want to celebrate the historic growth of the game. The corporate structure seems more focused on managing the social media fallout than fixing the core issue happening on the hardwood floor every single night. To understand why this friction is so intense, you have to look at the sheer historical scale of the audience Caitlin Clark commands. Sports marketing analysts frequently note that a rising tide is supposed to lift all boats, bringing more revenue and attention to every single franchise. In the NBA, transcendent superstars like Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan were heavily protected and celebrated because the league recognized they were the ultimate economic engines driving global growth. They were the cash cows that brought in massive television contracts, sold out arenas, and introduced millions of casual observers to the sport. With Caitlin Clark, however, parts of the basketball establishment seem to be pushing back against that exact same playbook, treating her historic popularity with bizarre suspicion. This institutional reluctance to fully lean into the stardom of Caitlin Clark has left her completely exposed to an incredibly demanding schedule. Entering the weekend, every single Fever supporter was feeling a deep sense of dread regarding the player's physical durability. Caitlin Clark was already fighting through a prolonged recovery from a painful back issue that had previously kept her sidelined from multiple contests. Layering a severe quad contusion on top of a healing back while staring down a brutal back-to-back home schedule against elite teams like the Seattle Storm and New York Liberty is a logistical nightmare. The physical toll of playing through these compounding injuries with a strict minute restriction is bound to impact her efficiency on the floor. Yet, the expectation for her to perform at a legendary level remains completely unchanged by the public. The game against the Golden State Valkyries perfectly illustrated how these physical limitations can quickly turn a night into an absolute nightmare on the court. From the very first tip-off, the Valkyries utilized their elite, suffocating defensive pressure to trap Caitlin Clark the moment she crossed half-court. The opposing guards played an incredibly physical style, bumping her off her spots and disrupting the flow of the Indiana offense. The Fever fell behind early, facing a staggering 12-2 deficit in the opening minutes of the contest. Caitlin Clark struggled immensely to find her regular shooting touch against the constant double teams, finishing the entire first half with a mere 2 points on a highly uncharacteristic 1 of 5 shooting performance from the field. The critics were immediately ready to pounce on this slow start, using it as fuel to downplay her superstar status. Traditionalists often frame this intense physical pressure as a necessary rite of passage, arguing that every legendary player has to endure a period of basketball bullying to earn their respect in the league. They point to the early careers of Michael Jordan and LeBron James, who had to battle through highly aggressive defensive schemes before claiming their spots at the top of the mountain. From this perspective, the intense targeting of Caitlin Clark isn't a sign of institutional malice, but rather the ultimate sign of competitive respect from her peers. If opponents didn't fear her long-range scoring ability, they wouldn't expend so much physical energy trying to take her out of the game. However, there is a massive difference between standard playoff-level physicality and allowing players to clear the boundary into dangerous territory without a whistle. When Caitlin Clark is getting knocked out of bounds near the stanchion without a single referee stepping in, it crosses the line from a rite of passage into a serious safety hazard. The double standard becomes even more glaring when you compare it to how other elite guards are protected when driving into the lane. The frustration building within the Indiana organization is completely justified, as they watch their primary financial and athletic asset take heavy floor contact night after night without proper institutional backing. The breaking point was rapidly approaching, and the third quarter would provide an unforgettable response from the sophomore superstar. The shift in dynamic that occurred during the third quarter proved that Caitlin Clark operates on a completely higher tier of competitive excellence, regardless of the physical obstacles placed in her way. Trailing significantly after a brutal first half, the Indiana Fever desperately needed a spark to salvage their positioning in the Eastern Conference standings. That was the exact moment Caitlin Clark took total control of the floor, orchestrating a spectacular 17-4 offensive explosion that completely flipped the momentum of the game. The highlight of the entire sequence came when Caitlin Clark forced a brilliant defensive steal out on the perimeter. Although she narrowly missed her initial long-range look, Caitlin Clark tracked down her own offensive rebound, executing a jaw-dropping behind-the-back spin pass to set up Aaliyah Boston for a massive three-pointer that sent the home crowd into an absolute frenzy. This breathtaking level of playmaking showcased exactly what makes Caitlin Clark a generational talent in modern basketball. Even while playing through a severe quad contusion, a lingering back issue, and strict minutes restrictions, she completely altered the geometry of the court. During the final 2 minutes of that explosive third period alone, Caitlin Clark went on a personal scoring tear, racking up 10 quick points to single-handedly drag her team back into the lead. It was a clear demonstration of her elite basketball IQ and physical resilience, proving that she can dominate the game even when her perimeter shooting isn't clicking at its usual efficiency. Her ability to elevate the play of everyone around her under such intense physical duress is exactly why millions of new viewers tune in every single night. However, the physical toll of absorbing uncalled contact eventually caught up with the short-handed Indiana roster as the game entered its final stretch. The fourth quarter turned into a complete disaster for the home team as the suffocating depth of the Golden State Valkyries began to take over. The Fever quickly ran out of gas, struggling to secure defensive stops as the Valkyries executed a crushing 12-4 run to reclaim a permanent lead. In a desperate attempt to stop the bleeding, head coach Stephanie White burned a critical timeout on an unsuccessful challenge, leaving the team with zero administrative recourse as the clock wound down. The final buzzer sounded with a decisive 88-75 victory for the visitors, leaving the Fever tied with the Atlanta Dream at the top of the Eastern standings. Caitlin Clark finished the grueling night with 13 points and 6 assists, but the harsh physical numbers told the true story of the contest. She shot a highly uncharacteristic 4 of 14 from the field and a mere 1 of 8 from beyond the three-point arc against the hyper-aggressive defensive traps. The post-game analysis immediately focused on the compounding injuries that Caitlin Clark is forced to navigate while the league office continues to debate its officiating guidelines. Fans are point-blank pointing out that during her lower body injury-plagued early career, multiple severe quad contusions significantly altered her regular season trajectory. Every single supporter who watched Caitlin Clark hobble back to the locker room knows exactly how devastating a deep muscle contusion can be for her long-term physical legacy. The administrative narrative surrounding her physical play becomes even more complicated when you look at the technical foul structure of the league. With her explosive outburst toward the referee on Wednesday night, Caitlin Clark has now officially accumulated 5 technical fouls over the course of the current season. Under standard league guidelines, an automatic 1-game suspension is triggered the absolute moment a player reaches a total of 8 technicals. This places Caitlin Clark in an incredibly dangerous position moving forward, as opposing defenders will undoubtedly continue to test her patience on the floor. The refs clearly recognized the high stakes of the situation, choosing to issue a stern final warning during the game rather than hitting her with an immediate ejection for her verbal frustration. This delicate balancing act between physical safety and administrative discipline is setting up an incredibly volatile weekend for the franchise. The Indiana Fever are staring down a brutal back-to-back home schedule, facing off against the elite Seattle Storm on Friday night followed by a quick turnaround against the New York Liberty on Saturday. Prior to the physical battle against the Valkyries, Caitlin Clark openly expressed significant uncertainty regarding her physical availability for these consecutive high-intensity matchups. The thought of their franchise icon entering such a demanding stretch with a freshly bruised quad on top of a highly sensitive back has every single Fever fan feeling absolutely terrified about what could happen next. The institutional handling of this entire situation took a highly controversial turn when sports analysts began bringing outside societal dynamics into the media coverage. Several prominent television commentators openly debated the concept of privilege within sports marketing, arguing that the overwhelming media focus on Caitlin Clark is deeply tied to her specific demographic background. They questioned why legendary veteran figures had to historically travel overseas to play in international leagues just to earn a sustainable living, while a sophomore superstar immediately commands multi-million-dollar corporate partnerships right at home. This sudden pivot into complex sociological debates has left many traditional basketball purists feeling incredibly uncomfortable with the modern direction of sports media. While these intense debates continue to polarize the sports world, mature veteran players are doing everything they can to protect the young star from the media circus. Grown athletes inside the Indiana locker room are actively working to ensure that the off-court noise does not compromise the team's ultimate competitive focus. They recognize that Caitlin Clark possesses a remarkably steady head on her shoulders, handling the crushing weight of global fame with a level of poise that completely defies her young age. Her teammates are continually stepping up to provide an emotional shield, allowing Caitlin Clark to focus purely on her physical rehabilitation and tactical game preparation as the season reaches its most critical phase. The ultimate irony of the situation is that the post-game comments made by head coach Stephanie White continue to be heavily criticized as incredibly tone-deaf by the fan base. Instead of launching a fierce, uncompromising defense of her franchise players' physical safety at the podium, the head coach's sarcastic remarks left many supporters feeling like Caitlin Clark was subtly thrown under the bus to avoid an administrative fine. Fans are demanding a much more aggressive public stance from the organization, arguing that protecting the long-term health of Caitlin Clark should always take absolute priority over corporate harmony. The deep-seated disconnect between the coaching staff's public compliance and the star player's clear physical suffering is creating a highly explosive dynamic that is bound to trigger a massive shift in how the franchise handles its internal affairs moving forward. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the league is genuinely trying to slow down the momentum of Caitlin Clark, or is the media simply blowing these internal leaks completely out of proportion? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below and let me know if you are riding with Caitlin Clark 100%. If you want to stay completely ahead of the curve on all the breaking news, leaked audio updates, and major sports controversies this season, make sure to give this video a like and hit that subscribe button right now. Don't forget to turn on all alerts so you never miss a single update as this historic season continues to unfold. Thank you so much for watching. Click the next video on your screen to keep diving into the story, and we will see you right there.